Okay, so this is Unit 2, Lesson 4, Part 2, and these are the examples. So if we take a look at this gazebo, where there's a hexagon on the top, and we're trying to figure out what are the total angles, and so what we're trying to figure out is all the interior angles, what do they add up to? Okay, so a regular polygon is all its angles and side lengths are equal. Okay, so we're thinking about a shape that's equal. A polygon that would have equal shape would be a stop sign, right? Because all the sides are the same length and all the angles that would be formed by the sides would be the same too. So this would be a hexagon on a roof, all the sides are the same, all the angles would be the same as well. Okay, so because we're talking about a hexagon, the number of sides is n equals 6. And the formula to figure out if I added up all the outside or all the interior angles on the edges and added them all up and figured it out, we can use this formula. Okay, and then all I've got to do is try to figure out. Oh, by the way, I'm just looking back at my previous notes, and on the previous note I just noticed that when I factored out the 180, and I'm just doing this because I'm just looking at it right now, when I factored out the 180 on the previous question, I had 180n minus 360, and I factored out the 180. I think you noticed my mistake. I was supposed to write n minus 2, right? And then that proved that it was the same thing. So if you noticed that mistake, that just noticed that now, so you can go back and just fix that. Okay, anyways, getting back to this question, we're using this as figuring out our total angles for the edges. And we know there's 6 sides, so I just plug in 6, and I get S equals 180, 6 minus 2. And so I get 180 times 4, which is 720 degrees. So if I were taking a look at this shape, I'm just going to draw it like 1, and I'm not very good at drawing, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I added up this angle, this angle, this angle, that angle, that angle, and that angle. That would equal 720. And since they're all the same, I can just divide it by 6, and that comes out to 120 degrees. Done. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause the video and try to see if you can do this one, and it's a 15-sided polygon. Okay, now that you've tried it, let's see if you did it right. Use the same formula. S equals 180, and this time the n is 15. So it's going to be 13 times 180 is 2,340 degrees. And because there's 15 sides, all of the angles on the edges are the same. Divide it by 15. Easy peasy, you get 156 degrees. Okay, last example. This one's a little different, but pretty straightforward. What they're doing is a floor tile designer, and what you're doing is you're trying to put these octagon tiles and you try to lay them around a center square tile, and they want to know, does this actually work? Could you actually create this shape? Just because we've done it here doesn't mean these edges are going to fit perfectly. So if they had the same length, so if I took this octagon and I pulled it out, does this length here equal this length on the square? Does it work? Now if you think about it, a square has to have a corners of 90 degrees. So all these corners of the square are 90 degrees, and these are exterior angles outside of these octagons. So how do I figure that out? Well, let's figure out all the angles. We have to know these corners first, right? So I'd have to figure that out. So use our formula just like before, except this time we're going to use an n of 8. And so we get 180 n minus 2. So you go 180, 8 minus 2 is 6. So I get 180 times 6. I get 1080. So all the angles in this thing equal 1080. And what I mean by all the angles, I mean the corners. Okay, divide it by 8, That means each corner angle equals 135 degrees. Okay, so I know that's 135 degrees, I know that's 135 degrees. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. That's 135 and that's 135. Now, if this were true, this has to be 90 degrees for it to be a square corner. So that means I've got to check to see if this actually is 90 degrees. And if it is, it'll work. So if I just kind of drew this and I zoomed in from here to here, so I'm going to draw the angle, I'm going to draw the edge of the square. We know that this was 135, which was that. We know that was 135, which is this. It means this is supposed to be 90 degrees because that's the edge of a square, because this was the square. Now, is it 90 degrees? So if I go 360 minus 135 minus 135, it is 90 degrees. Yay, it works. And it definitely proves that you can make this shape and tile it. Okay, there's your assignment. Good luck.